with the new lens tool, we've created this ability to upload spatial data and style it. So I'm just going to show you how that works and then talk to why that's valuable. Like, styling spatial data, you can do that in QGIS, you can do that in ArcGIS, you can do it in Giraffe. Why would you do it in Giraffe? So I've downloaded some data here from this list of open GeoJSON data sets, and I've opened up my Scratchpad. I'm just going to go add a layer, create my own from vector, and the data set I'm going to use is this one here, secondary pupils eligible for free school meals by ward as of January 2021. So you may get this data from the government, Bureau, Census Bureau, Australian Bureau of Statistics, or whoever you are, your research partners, internal GIS department. These kind of spatial data sets are created all over. So I've just brought it in, KML GeoJSON shapefile, brought it in. Now I'm going to style it using the lens controls, as Giraffe is asking me to do. And I'm going to color this thing by number of pupils. That's number of pupils eligible for free lunches, for free school meals. And I'm actually going to set the height to number of pupils as well. So you have this little 3D data set, which is cool. And we've done this thing where you can scale it up. Woohoo! Really to emphasize those differences, because those are falling into sort of very similar blues, but they're actually different. Now, if I click on this geometry, just like any sort of quality geospatial application, I can see the metadata. So here I've got the ward property ID, the ward name, the number of pupils, and the geometry ID. And if I click on two, I can sort of see two of them, and we render the ID as the heading. Okay, so that's kind of cool. But I could have done that in QGIS, right? And here is QGIS, here is the data set in QGIS, and I can look at the, here's here home, number of pupils, or whatever it is, number of pupils, ward ID, all the same data, presented very similarly, and I can set styles in GIS and create gradients, very similar to the way that I have in Giraffe. So what's the value add here? And I think there's two value adds. The first is that it's very easy for me to publish this layer, right, to my workspace. So you can see this is Giraffe team, and this is the secondary pupils eligible for free school. I'm just going to say via GeoJSON. And that layer is now published to Giraffe. And so if I refresh, anyone in my team space, in my workspace, the Giraffe team, can fly across to Huddersfield, where this data is from, and can add this data to their project. So there you can see, via GeoJSON, secondary pupils. Right? So this thing is now very discoverable. It's just like, it's in your workspace. You can save these layers to your team, to your entire organization. You can make them public. You can make them your own. That's a huge value add. And they ship with a default styling, right? It's not just raw data. And they're in the cloud. So wherever you are, whatever device, it's handled. You can just get that information immediately. What's even cooler is that your users who may be interested in this can say, actually, this styling is not really good for me. They can open the lens control, and at a project level, as in without overriding the organization data, they can say, I hate the blues, I want the civitas, and I don't need to, do it that big, and maybe we'll show a label and we'll label this thing by ward, right? And they can style and manipulate the presentation of this data at a project level for their needs, which means that you can add more and more data, right? You don't need to limit yourself to four attributes. You could add 20 or 30 attributes, and your users can filter on those attributes, style by those attributes, do basic GIS work on those attributes. So let's filter by the number of pupils and only show where there's more than 200, right? That's just Park, Worley, and Illingsworth, and what is it? Mixenden. So it's turned this like really simple data set into this extremely powerful bit of enterprise knowledge, data to knowledge, the classic thing. And then of course, the other thing that's really fantastic is the fact that this is sort of a very geospatial GIS task that I'm doing here, but it's within the Giraffe ecosystem, like interface. So you can start drawing, and you can be doing analytics, and you can do all the other things that you can do in Giraffe, you know, from a design, optioneering perspective, from a community engagement perspective, utilizing that data. So suddenly that data set breaks free of a pure GIS use case, you know, where it's viewed in Q and Arc and maybe in Tableau or Power BI. And all of a sudden now it can be used by designers, by your engagement team, by your marketing team. And so it's bringing that spatial data to life from a business perspective, which is what we're really focused on. So this, you know, filters and coloring and styling are not novel. We've worked really hard, and the team has done amazingly at making those operations very simple and intuitive. And I think they've done a great job, and I think we'll continue to refine this even more. But the real thing that we focus on is how do you make those geospatial operations work in the service of the business. That's sort of our task. That's the Giraffe area of focus. So hopefully I've shown you not only how to upload data into Giraffe and style it and filter it and share it, but also how this may be drive an ROI, make your job easier, fewer clicks, fewer frustrating email chains, simpler, more straightforward, more data-driven decisions.